Anime. Animation for Japan is a whole thing and has been for many decades now. Dragon Ball, Naruto, One Piece, some of the most popular animated series on this entire planet are from Japan. But anime hasn't always been mega popular in English-speaking territories. During the 90s, when I was a child, anime was niche. It was gaining in popularity, but for a lot of the 90s, it was very niche. Then Dragon Ball Z landed and anime really exploded. Over the following 3 decades, anime has become a very normal and very popular thing in English-speaking territories. My first anime was fucking Astro Boy, somewhere between 1985 and 1990 on Canadian TV. I was an absolute babby of a goblin, so I barely even remember it. Me and my family thought that it was a Quebecois cartoon due to all of the francophone names in the credits. You know, 80s anime and its infamous Canadian dubs. But regardless of where it came from, I love that silly little show. And as I got older, more and more Japanese cartoons entered my world. And then Japanese video games, and Japanese comics. I was truly ahead of the curve and 10,000% the biggest fucking nerd as a child. Continuing on into adulthood, I guess. I remember buying pre-read issues of anime magazines, obsessing over early Japanese role-playing games, and renting VHS cassettes from Blockbuster. And to paint a picture, these were not full series that you could rent. The local Blockbuster had the second Bubblegum Crisis VHS, which had episodes 3 and 4 on it. They didn't have VHS 1 or anything after 2, just VHS 2 with episodes 3 and 4. Every now and then they would play an anime late night on TV, and I would record it to VHS to watch it later, but being 12 and trying to watch Ninja Scroll on a Sunday morning without mom seeing all the decapitations and boobs was not a great time. But we did it because anime. And one of these 90s animes that I truly adored was Slayers. Slayers was a swords and sorcery comedy adventure series focusing on the misadventures of the sorceress Lina Inverse. The series had dungeons, dragons, spells, swords, monsters, magic, and more. Think Record of Lodoss War, but with hijinks and shenanigans. I loved that series. I somehow ended up with the entire VHS set of the original run. That was 12 cassettes and must have cost my mom $1 million fucking dollars. Slayers remained popular for a few years and had loads of spin-offs and movies and stuff. It also had a bunch of video games. And fucking none of them were localized into English, not even the SNES one, which would have been a minor hit back in the days of Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger and Secret of Mana and all of those games. But it was never translated until the internet arrived. And now it's 2026, and I want to remember those feelings that the 90s brought me, so I am gonna review the shit out of this dumb game. Right here, right now, on RPG Fortress! My name is Richard, and where treasure glitters, I'll be there to claim it. Roll the intro. Slayers was developed by BEC Co. Limited and published by Banpresto for the Super Famicom in Japan in 1994. I wasn't sure I was aware of who BEC Co. Limited was at first, but after checking Moby, it looks like they've been doing games based on anime, manga, and other types of Japanese media for literally decades. Everything from Ultraman to Cowboy Bebop to Gundam to Dragon Ball. Hell, they were still even releasing games all the way up to 2010, where they released games for the Xbox 360, PSP, and PS3. 1994 was a hallmark year for Japanese RPGs, seeing a release of Final Fantasy VI, my favorite Final Fantasy, Breath of Fire 2, my favorite Breath of Fire, and Brandish, a Falcom RPG I haven't gotten around to playing yet. So Slayers was right at home releasing alongside these other classic JRPGs. It definitely doesn't hit quite the same highs as Final Fantasy VI, but you know what? It's actually a pretty decent game. Slayers is a very Super Famicom era JRPG. When I first loaded it up, it was like getting hit in the face with a brick that had a copy of Final Fantasy IV taped to it. It's like the devs sat down and played the entirety of Final Fantasy IV in a weekend and said, okay, we know what RPGs are now, let's make a game. and then they made Slayers. And that's a good thing. FF4 is a great game. Notable staff includes the actual Slayers artist for all of the anime, light novels, and manga, Rui Arezumi. And let me tell you, his art elevates the game immensely. This game has some of the best character portraits and interstitial art that I have ever seen in any SNES game. Who else worked on this game? Hajime Kanzaka, the guy who wrote the Slayers light novels, worked on the scenario, along with 2 other people. Also very cool. These 2 helping to work on the game really adds a level of legitimacy to it. Most of the remaining staff is just longtime staff for BEC. Also of note that this game was never localized into English, but there is an English patch that was put together by Dynamic Designs and Matt's Messy Room. Information on this patch can be found at romhacking.net. It's clear that the translators were fans of the anime because all of the character names, locations, magic spells, and most importantly, the humor all hit in just the right way. This really feels like Slayers, and that will go a long way for Slayers fans. Alright, let's talk a bit about the story. I normally don't do in-depth spoilers, but I really feel like this time I have to talk about the story, so spoilers for this 1,000,000-year-old JRPG that was never released in English. You start off playing as Lina Inverse in some podunk town. But Lina doesn't know how she even got there. Whoops, it looks like Lina has amnesia. As you adventure through the world, you'll meet many incredible characters from the anime, including fan favorites such as Gauri, Zelgadis, and Naga. These characters all recognize Lina, but Lina doesn't recognize them. That pesky amnesia. Lina and party will venture to many towns to engage with loads of NPCs, some of which recognize Lina as a terrible sorceress known for blowing up cities. Nothing too weird there, Lina has definitely caused some absolute havoc in the anime. That Dragon Slave spell is absolutely disastrous. Eventually, Lina will fight a copy of herself conjured by an evil magician. Later on in the story, we learn, much to Lina's and my own surprise, that you are not playing as Lina Inverse. You are playing as another copy of Lina. This really tore me out of the game for a little while. I felt like I was playing a sham of a game. It was like someone played a trick on me. It was like finding out that Principal Skinner was not Principal Skinner. But as I sat and thought about it, I actually thought that this was a pretty cool twist. Looking back at the whole amnesia thing, the events of a Lina copy blowing up towns, fighting a copy of Lina, there were actually clues all the way up to the reveal. I actually considered restarting the game just to see the events leading up to this point with the knowledge that I had gained. It was a really cool plot twist for what I was expecting to be an okay anime game. It's even cooler when the actual Lina joins you in the post-game and you basically have 2 Linas in your party. Hitting enemies with Dragon Slave twice in a round is incredible. Gameplay of Slayers is very traditional JRPG fare, especially for the era it was released. Like I already said, the game definitely feels influenced by Final Fantasy IV. You walk around towns and dungeons with these cute little chibi sprites, you have that familiar blue text box, random battles, just a little bit of Mode 7 on the world map. You know, it's a Super Famicom game from the early 90s. Game progression is simple but satisfying. Go to a town, talk to NPCs, get new gear, do the very occasional quest, go to dungeon, fight monsters, kill a boss, get a thing, get some story, rinse and repeat. The minutiae of these actions range from standard to pretty incomprehensible. For example, in towns you can hold down the button to run, but you can't run in dungeons. I don't quite get this. Surely you'd want to move faster in dungeons where there's danger as opposed to towns where you are safe. Or maybe that's just it. Maybe you can't run in dungeons because you're taking it slow and steady? I guess I can see the logic there, but I don't quite agree with it. In towns, you can also stay at inns to heal your HP and MP. There are staggered types of rooms, usually a normal room, nice room, and super nice room. The super nice room is only like 30 gold, so just get that room every single time. You can also speak to the guy behind the bar in inns to sit down and eat food. Usually these meals only cost 6 or 7 gold, but sitting down to eat doesn't do anything. Like, other than a message saying you feel full and satiated, nothing happens. I'd assume this would give you some sort of boost in battle, but I never saw anything like that take place. Now, if you got some sort of snappy or cute dialogue, sure, I'd pay 7 gold at an inn to get some banter between Lina and Gowry, but you don't even get that. You can also go to the doctor in town to get healed of status effects, but Lina and every other mage have a spell called Dicleary, which costs practically nothing and heals you of all status effects. I literally never once used the doctor for anything. One unique thing in towns that I did really like were the magic guilds. One of Lina's stats is magic level. You start at 1 and it goes all the way to 10. You start with only a couple of spells, so you want to increase your magic level ASAP. This involves talking to certain NPCs, finishing certain story beats, or locating the correct thing to search, usually a book in a bookcase. As you level up your magic level, you will automatically learn new spells. You can also find new spells littered around the world in the form of, once again, NPCs, story beats, or random books, but you need to be of a certain level to learn these spells. So if you're not at the right level, make a note of where this person or item is, continue on until you level up, and then go back and get the new spells. This is a pretty cool progression system, and I don't think I've seen something quite like this previously in a game. It's kind of like a mix between the old school D&D spell level and traditional MP jrpg magic systems. Trying to learn as many spells as possible is also really good for boss fights. Now, normal battles are very standard old school RPG fare. Turn-based combat, where each turn you can attack, cast a spell, use an item, run, or even use that character's unique skill. It's simple, it's old school, it's tried and tested, it's great. But when you get to a boss, it usually involves some guesswork. Each boss has a spell weakness. Hitting them with that spell will do loads of damage, but hitting them with any other spell will do no damage. And there is well over a dozen attack spells, so it might take you quite a few turns to figure out which spell actually damages a boss during a boss fight. As mentioned, all characters have a unique skill to keep battles interesting. Gowry does a sword attack to all enemies and has a chance to instantly kill them. Silphiel can target all characters with her healing magic. Lina, real Lina that is, starts the battle by casting a random attack spell, and so on. Something that I like in combat that's a little bizarre is that some of your party members are indignant and don't like taking orders. Some characters, when given their action, will ignore that action and do whatever the fuck they want to instead. Naga is especially likely to just ignore whatever command you give her. If you want her to attack, she'll cast a spell. If you want her to cast a spell, she'll attack. A couple of your party members are like this. This adds a level of tension to combat that I really enjoyed, especially with such a simple combat system. Overall, combat is pretty fun, despite some bosses being really weird about what damage they take. When you finish the game, there isn't a New Game Plus, as it was 1994 and that practice wasn't completely established by then, but you do get some post-game content, a couple of towns, a couple of dungeons, and the best part is you get to choose which characters you bring with you. Essentially, you can choose from any of your party members that you already had, plus as mentioned earlier, the actual Lina will join your party as well, so my post-game team was Lina, Copy Lina, Gowry, and Silphiel, and with that party I had no difficulties with the post-game dungeons. Overall, the game is pretty decent on its own. It would be a solid C-tier JRPG on its own accords, but the Slayer's flavoring really elevates it to a strong B. Character status screens feature huge, beautiful art of each character. These waist-up illustrations are gorgeous and pop with intense color. They're just a feast for your eye holes. During battle, you get to see portraits of your characters at the bottom of the screen, and these portraits react depending on what happens during battle. Attacking the enemy makes them scowl in anticipation, and getting hit makes them cringe in pain. Saving at a save point will let you look at these adorable crayon drawings of Lina doing Lina stuff. and the aforementioned humor is very Slayers. All of this really helps elevate a solid if unremarkable game into something really cool. Also, the music is just fucking mint. It sounds so much like those SNES Final Fantasy games that I found myself constantly just stopping and listening to the music. The soundtrack was written by Koji Yamada, someone I hadn't heard of previously. He's basically BEC's in-house musician. He's essentially worked on most of their games and not a lot else, but regardless of the resume, the dude wrote a smoking soundtrack. So yeah, all in all, I can definitely recommend Slayers for the Super Famicom. Even if you're not a Slayers fan, this game is absolutely solid. It's not an all-time classic, it doesn't sit next to Final Fantasy VI or Chrono Trigger, but it is a solid little game on its own. The Slayers' art and humor really elevate the title though. If you are a Slayers fan, I really recommend giving this game a play. With the addition of Rui Arizumi and Hajime Kanzaka, it really feels like a Slayers game. So if you like Slayers, you really gotta sit down and play this one. I am very impressed with this game. I went in expecting a nothing game that tickled my anime bone, but I got a solid game with great character art, a hot soundtrack, and some truly fun dungeon crawling. Definitely a game more SNES/Super Famicom fans should give a play. For RPG Fortress, I'm Richard. See you next time, and don't forget to hug a cat. Goodbye for now.